In a bustling city, one of the most important institutions was its police department. The department served the community, keeping law and order, but there were growing concerns about the way some officers treated people, especially those from different racial backgrounds. The department had a black police chief who had earned respect for his leadership and fairness. Chief Williams was known for his calm demeanor, and his dedication to ensuring justice was always upheld. His position wasn't easy, and every decision he made was closely watched, both by his fellow officers and the community he served. The department, like many others across the country, faced challenges. There was a history of racial tension within the ranks, with some officers holding outdated and prejudiced views. Chief Williams was determined to change this. He believed in unity and worked tirelessly to create a more inclusive department. However, not everyone in the department shared his vision. One officer, Officer Thompson, had been known for his troubling behavior. He had made several inappropriate comments in the past, and it was clear to many that he harbored racist beliefs. While Chief Williams was pushing for progress, Officer Thompson was causing friction among his colleagues and in the community. He would often speak ill of people from different backgrounds and would even make inappropriate remarks about Chief Williams' leadership. Despite these issues, the department had not yet taken any serious action against Officer Thompson, leaving many frustrated. One day, the tensions that had been building up came to a head. It started with a routine shift where both the chief and Officer Thompson were present. They were at the station when a heated disagreement broke out. Officer Thompson, frustrated with what he saw as an attempt to change the department's culture, confronted Chief Williams. The situation quickly escalated. Officer Thompson, who had already been on edge, began pointing fingers and yelling, accusing the chief of being too lenient. His anger grew, and before anyone knew what was happening, he reached for his gun. The room went silent in an instant. Chief Williams stood still, calm and collected, his experience shining through. He knew how to handle tense situations, but no one could predict what would happen next. The officer's hand shook as the gun was aimed, but before anyone could react, a few of the other officers stepped in, diffusing the situation. The room was filled with a tense silence, and the atmosphere was heavy. No one had ever seen Officer Thompson behave like this before. The chief, though shaken, remained steady, knowing this moment could change everything. What happened next would set the stage for a dramatic turning point in the department's history. In the days that followed the confrontation, the police department felt a shift. It was as if a storm was brewing, and everyone could sense it. Chief Williams had always been known for his calm and measured approach, but now, even he could feel the weight of what had just happened. The incident with Officer Thompson was not something that could easily be forgotten, especially when it had the potential to shake the very foundation of the department. Chief Williams had spent years trying to foster an atmosphere of respect, equality, and unity. He understood that the world of policing was not just about enforcing laws, but about building trust within the community. He worked tirelessly to ensure his officers were fair, professional, and compassionate. However, there was always resistance, and it wasn't just from people outside the department. Some officers, like Officer Thompson, were openly skeptical about the changes Chief Williams was trying to implement. Thompson had made his thoughts clear on multiple occasions. He would grumble about the chief's leadership and complain about the direction the department was taking. To him, the focus on fairness and diversity felt unnecessary, even threatening. He couldn't understand why the chief was so passionate about inclusion, and this only fueled his frustration. Over the months, tensions within the force grew. Chief Williams knew that addressing these issues was crucial, but he also understood that it was a slow and difficult process. He was faced with officers who had different views, some of which were deeply ingrained. The department's culture was changing, but some were not ready to let go of their old beliefs. The community also began to take notice. Reports of police misconduct, especially racial bias, were starting to surface more frequently. People began to question whether the department was doing enough to protect them, or if it was failing to live up to its responsibilities. Many were hopeful that Chief Williams could make a real difference, but there were doubts. Some felt that change couldn't happen fast enough, especially when some officers were clearly resistant to it. As the pressure mounted, Chief Williams found himself in a difficult position. He knew he had to address the situation with Officer Thompson head-on. It wasn't just about one officer's behavior. It was about setting a clear example for the entire department. This was the moment that could determine whether the police force would move forward or continue to struggle with its internal divisions. The tension in the police department had been building for months, and it finally reached a breaking point. Officer Thompson's behavior had been an open secret, with many officers quietly uncomfortable with his actions, but nothing had ever been done about it. Chief Williams, determined to keep the peace and improve the department, had tried everything he could to manage the situation. But that day, things went too far. It started with a routine shift at the station, just like any other. Chief Williams was in his office, reviewing reports, when Officer Thompson stormed in. His face was red, and his voice was raised. Chief Williams could sense that something wasn't right. Thompson was frustrated, his usual tension rising to the surface. The chief, calm as always, looked up and asked if something was wrong. Thompson didn't answer the question directly. Instead, he began criticizing the chief's recent actions. He didn't believe in the changes Chief Williams had been pushing for, the focus on equality and inclusion. "You're ruining this department," he shouted. "Everything is changing, and it's not for the better." The words were sharp, each one loaded with frustration. Chief Williams tried to reason with him, explaining that the changes were necessary to build a better, more respected force. "We need to move forward," he said. "We can't stay stuck in the past." But Thompson wasn't listening. His anger was growing, his voice getting louder. As the conversation escalated, Chief Williams remained steady, trying to keep his emotions in check. He knew how important it was to de-escalate the situation. However, Thompson's frustration reached its peak. He stepped closer to the chief, his words now filled with hostility. "You don't understand," he spat. "You're too soft on these people." Without warning, he reached for his gun. The room fell into an eerie silence. Chief Williams, taken aback by the sudden move, stood still, knowing that his next actions would be crucial. It was a shocking moment. The chief's experience allowed him to stay calm under pressure, but the situation was intense. He could feel the weight of Thompson's rage, and the gun now pointed at him. The room was filled with tension, but before the situation could escalate further, a few other officers entered the room. They quickly assessed the situation and stepped in, disarming Thompson before any harm could be done. The incident left everyone in shock. No one could believe what had just happened. The department had never seen anything like it. It was clear that the situation could no longer be ignored. Something had to change, and fast. The moment Officer Thompson pulled his gun on Chief Williams, the entire police station went into shock. Officers who had witnessed the scene couldn't believe what had just happened. For years, Thompson had been known for his rebellious attitude and complaints about the changes in the department, but no one had ever expected him to go this far. The quiet hum of the station, usually filled with the sound of radios and paperwork, was now replaced with heavy silence. Chief Williams, despite the shock of the situation, had kept his composure. His years of experience and calm nature helped him stay level-headed. He didn't panic. Instead, he allowed the officers who had intervened to handle the situation. Once Thompson was disarmed, the room was filled with an uneasy stillness. The incident left everyone wondering what would come next. The first step was to remove Officer Thompson from the scene. He was escorted out of the room and placed under temporary suspension. Chief Williams called for a meeting with his higher-ups immediately. It was clear that the department couldn't simply sweep the event under the rug. The situation needed to be handled quickly and carefully to ensure the safety and trust of the officers and the community. While Thompson was suspended, Chief Williams focused on making sure the department was secure. He spoke with the officers who had intervened, thanking them for their quick actions. Their calmness and professionalism had prevented the situation from escalating further. They all knew this would be a pivotal moment for the department, and they felt the weight of what had just occurred. In the meantime, the news of the incident spread quickly through the police force. Word got out, and it didn't take long for the community to hear about what had happened. People were shocked, confused, and angry. They wondered how something like this could happen within the very force meant to protect them. Many questioned how the department would respond and what action would be taken against Officer Thompson. Chief Williams had always been known for his fairness and commitment to justice. This incident was not only a personal test for him, but also for the department as a whole. He knew that if he didn't handle it properly, it could damage the department's reputation beyond repair. The next steps would need to be carefully thought out, as the future of the department depended on it. The news about the incident between Chief Williams and Officer Thompson quickly spread beyond the walls of the police department. As more details were revealed, it became a hot topic in the city. People were shocked, some feeling angry, others confused. How could something like this happen in the very department meant to protect and serve the community? In the days that followed, social media, local news outlets, and community groups were buzzing with reactions. Many residents expressed disbelief that an officer would threaten the police chief, and they wondered how long this kind of behavior had been going on. Some were frustrated by the idea that there might be others like Thompson, quietly causing trouble within the department. How could we trust the police if this is happening inside their own ranks? One person wrote online. However, not everyone saw the situation in the same way. Some people in the community, especially those who were already skeptical of the department's leadership, took the side of Officer Thompson. They argued that the chief was too focused on changes they didn't agree with, and that Thompson was simply standing up for what he believed in. But even these voices couldn't ignore the gravity of the situation. No one could deny that pulling a gun on the police chief was a step too far. As the public debate continued, civil rights organizations and community leaders stepped in to voice their opinions. Many were quick to support Chief Williams, praising him for staying calm and professional during the confrontation. They saw this as a moment for the department to make a real change. This is a chance for the police to show they are serious about handling racism and improving their image, said one activist. The chief has always tried to make the department more inclusive, and now it is the time for action. Public protests and rallies were organized in response to the incident, with many people demanding accountability for Officer Thompson. The message was clear. This kind of behavior would not be tolerated, especially within the police force. The city's residents were watching closely to see how the department would handle this situation. Through all the noise, Chief Williams remained focused. He knew the eyes of the world were on him. He also knew that his next steps would be crucial in restoring the community's trust. What would happen next would shape the future of the police department and its relationship with the people they served. As the public's attention remained focused on the shocking incident, the police department moved quickly to launch an internal investigation. It was clear that what had happened between Chief Williams and Officer Thompson couldn't be ignored. The department had to take action to ensure that such an event wouldn't happen again. The investigation wasn't just about the confrontation itself. It was about the culture within the department and whether there were any deeper issues that needed to be addressed. Chief Williams, who had worked tirelessly to create an inclusive and fair environment in the department, knew this was a critical moment. He called for a full review of Officer Thompson's past behavior. This wasn't just about one officer's actions, but about ensuring that the department's values of equality and respect were upheld. The investigation team would examine any complaints or concerns about Thompson's conduct in the past and gather statements from fellow officers who had worked with him. The investigation process was thorough and, at times, uncomfortable. It meant asking hard questions and confronting uncomfortable truths about the department's culture. Chief Williams was committed to transparency throughout the process. He knew that the only way to rebuild trust within the department and the community was to show that the department would hold everyone accountable, no matter their rank. As the investigation continued, more officers came forward with information. Some had witnessed Thompson's inappropriate comments or behavior in the past, but many had remained silent, unsure of how to address the problem. Some had been reluctant to speak up, fearing retaliation or that nothing would change. But now, with the investigation underway, they felt a sense of urgency. They wanted to see real change in the department, and they wanted to make sure that everyone knew that racism and hostility would not be tolerated. Chief Williams met with the investigation team regularly, ensuring that everything was moving forward. He also made sure to speak with other officers in the department, listening to their concerns and offering support. This was a difficult time, but Chief Williams knew it was necessary. He had been a leader in this department for a reason. His focus had always been on fairness and justice, and now was the time to prove it. The investigation was nearing its conclusion, and the results were beginning to paint a clear picture of Officer Thompson's past actions. It was clear that this wasn't an isolated incident. The department had a lot of work to do, and the road ahead would be challenging. But Chief Williams was ready to face it head-on. After weeks of investigation, the day had finally come for the department to make its decision about Officer Thompson. The internal review had uncovered a history of troubling behavior. It was clear that his actions went beyond a single outburst. The investigation revealed multiple complaints from fellow officers about his behavior, many of which had been ignored or dismissed in the past. Some officers had been afraid to speak up, while others hadn't known how to address the issue. But now, the truth was out in the open, and it was time to take action. Chief Williams, though calm on the outside, was feeling the weight of this decision. This was not just about one officer. This was about setting a precedent for the entire department. The future of the police force, its relationship with the community, and its commitment to fairness were all at stake. Chief Williams knew that the choice he and the department's leadership team made would send a strong message. The meeting to discuss Thompson's future was tense. Several high-ranking officers were present, each carefully considering the evidence and the possible consequences of their decision. The room was quiet as Chief Williams spoke. He reminded everyone of the department's core values: integrity, respect, and fairness. He made it clear that these values were not negotiable, especially when it came to treating others with dignity. Racism, or any form of hatred, has no place in this department. Chief Williams said, his voice steady but firm. We cannot allow this kind of behavior to continue. It doesn't just hurt our community, it hurts the very foundation of what we stand for. After a few more minutes of discussion, the decision was made. Officer Thompson would be fired. The department could not and would not tolerate his actions any longer. While some officers in the room were disappointed by the decision, many understood that it was the right choice. It was about accountability, not just for Thompson, but for the entire force. The news of Thompson's firing spread quickly, and reactions were mixed. Some were supportive, knowing it was the right thing to do. Others felt that the decision was too harsh. But Chief Williams remained focused. He knew that making this difficult decision was the first step toward rebuilding the department's integrity and regaining the community's trust. This moment marked a turning point for the department. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but Chief Williams was determined to guide the force toward a future where respect, fairness, and unity would always come first. The firing of Officer Thompson sent ripples through the department and the community. It was a bold move, but Chief Williams and the leadership team knew it was necessary for the future of the force. While some officers expressed disappointment, many others supported the decision, understanding that this was about more than just one officer. It was about creating a police force that truly upheld its values of fairness, respect, and integrity. For the department, the repercussions of the incident were far-reaching. The decision to fire Officer Thompson didn't just solve one problem. It opened up a conversation about deeper issues within the force. Chief Williams was determined to ensure that this event would lead to lasting change. He knew that the department could not continue with a culture where racism and disrespect were allowed to fester, even in small ways. To address these issues, the department began to roll out a series of reforms. There was a renewed focus on diversity training, ensuring that every officer understood the importance of fairness, respect, and how to handle situations without bias. The department also started to implement better systems for reporting inappropriate behavior, making it clear that there would be no tolerance for any form of discrimination or hatred. But the changes didn't stop there. Chief Williams worked to strengthen the department's relationship with the community. He understood that earning back the trust of the people was just as important as reforming the force from within. He held town hall meetings, speaking directly to the community, listening to their concerns, and promising that the department would do better. His leadership was tested, but he remained committed to making sure everyone felt heard and valued. The community, which had been divided in its reaction to the incident, began to see that Chief Williams was serious about making lasting change. People started to feel more confident in the department's ability to protect and serve them fairly. There was still work to be done, and not everyone was completely satisfied with the changes, but the first steps had been taken. In the end, the firing of Officer Thompson became a turning point, not just for the department but for the entire city. Chief Williams knew the road ahead would be challenging, but he was more determined than ever to lead a police force that truly reflected the values of justice, equality, and respect. The department had a long way to go, but with these changes, they were on the right path. Months had passed since Officer Thompson's firing, but the effects of that decision were still being felt throughout the department. Chief Williams had worked hard to ensure that the police force didn't just move on from the incident, but learned from it. The changes that followed were not easy, but they were necessary for the future of the department and the community it served. Chief Williams knew that true change didn't happen overnight. It required dedication, patience, and, most importantly, a willingness to face difficult truths. The firing of Officer Thompson had been a start, but the work to transform the department was far from over. It was clear that the road to building a department founded on respect and fairness would take time. As part of the new approach, the department focused on expanding its community outreach. Chief Williams believed that fostering trust and understanding between the police and the public was essential. Officers participated in community events, and there were open forums where citizens could ask questions and share their concerns. Chief Williams made it clear that the department's goal was to listen, learn, and serve the community in the best way possible. The internal culture of the police department began to change too. The focus on diversity training became a regular part of every officer's development, ensuring that bias and discrimination had no place within the force. Officers were encouraged to reflect on their actions and the impact they had on the people they served. While the process was not always smooth, it was a necessary step to build a department that was truly inclusive. Over time, the community began to see the results. Crime rates dropped, and reports of police misconduct decreased. People felt more comfortable interacting with the police, knowing that officers were committed to treating everyone with respect. The relationship between the department and the community grew stronger, with mutual trust replacing the tension that had once existed. Chief Williams, reflecting on the journey, felt a sense of accomplishment. He knew that while the work was far from finished, the department was heading in the right direction. The changes made had laid the foundation for a future where justice, respect, and fairness were at the core of everything they did. The incident with Officer Thompson had been a wake-up call, but it also marked the beginning of a new era for the police department, one built on integrity and a commitment to doing better every day.